everyone, this is Star Zenith 33, Laura Francesca here, talking to you guys about the astro weather. I kind of missed the astro weather for a couple of days. I had a couple of exciting days for me, so I was always running around and traveling and taking my pet out to have his sunshine. And so I was not able to do the podcast, but I'm jumping back in there. Today is Monday. It is a little bit in the nighttime, so this is why I put, this kind of slower music, and just decided to jump in here just to talk a little bit on the astro weather. So let's jump in there and talk a little about it. So thank you for joining me here tonight as I talk about the astro weather and everything that's going on. There's been so much commotion. We know the FIFA, some countries have been eliminated, Mexico, one of them. And I'm not too sure about Portugal, but, I know Cristiano Ronaldo was crying, right? And I was like, what's going on? Did he lose? Did they lose or something? And I guess they did. And I don't know if they're completely eliminated, to tell you the truth, because I don't really know a lot about the soccer, but he was in tears. He said that was his last goodbye. So we'll see. There are some people saying it is Mercury retrograde, so they could go back to the drawing table and jump them back in there, So we'll see what happens. But there were a lot of disappointments with Mexico as well. But it's not so bad. There are some Mexicans that were not really hardcore Mexican. I mean, not hardcore Mexican fans, I would say. But they are Mexican. But they're just moving on, and maybe they're even glad they're moving on, because it's been a lot of wasting money and spending money irresponsibly and so forth, including myself a little bit, Well, not so bad. I'm actually very proud of myself because I've been able to, I don't know if the beers were on sale or something. I don't know what's going on. I think I do know what's going on. I think what's going on is that I have a lucky sticker. I'm back on my phone. I have a lucky sticker, and it's a Chinese sticker. And it's a symbolism of a sticker. I actually had, I think it's called the Nikeo Neko or Mineko Neko. It's a cat. It's a lucky cat in Japan. And so in TikTok, they have like these stickers, and you put them in the back of your phone. And for some reason, it has some kind of luck, And I guess you just have to believe, right? And I love that kitty because I do have it here in my room. I have a pretty big one. It's a gold color. The same one that you see when you go to a boba shop and you buy some bobas or something. Or Chinese food, And it has the little hand, the little paw, and it's just moving it up and down. I have this really big one. It's not so big, but it's not a mini one. But I like it because it's always moving its hand, and that what it means is that we're in service. We're always working, right? And that's also like welcoming if you do have customers coming in, which I don't because I work from home. But I did buy the sticker, but what I noticed, I was getting sleepy a lot. So, cats can sleep a lot, and they could be a little bit lazy, or maybe a lot. And so, I felt that the sticker was not really, it was balancing me. It did balance me because I have a phone number that equates to a 1, which it's about arguments. And my gosh, the arguments that I have gotten in the phone because of injustice, of like stealing my money and not honoring what they said they were going to honor me with, when it came to their word. And it had to do with companies, And I said, no, you guys say you guys are going to do it. And then they backed down. They said they were not going to do it. And so it was just a lot of drama, okay, where I had to talk to managers and supervisors. And I was not going to, finalize whatever situation was until I speak to the manager and we work it out, That's why I said I think I should have been an attorney because, I do like to resolve, situations, with honesty, right? But they got me really flustered where I was screaming at them on the phone, and I know I know I shouldn't have went, that bad, but yeah. So my phone was, it was too argumentative. I can't change the phone number because a lot of people already have it. Well, people in my immediate circle and so forth. But um, so you can change the energy, and that's about real estate as well. You can buy a house. But if it does have bad energy, if maybe you didn't know about feng shui or you didn't know about numerology and you bought a house and it has bad energy on there, well, you can change the energy with feng shui, okay? And so you can minimize at least the energy so it won't be so bad. And that's the trick of it. And just with phones too, you can change the frequency. And so these stickers that they sell in TikTok, I decided to buy the cat, and I was like, okay, it is balancing, but it's balancing me way too much. It's making me sleepy like a cat, so it does work, okay? You just really have to believe that it works. And then not only that, but I make sure it works because on top of it, I put oil like pheromone oil. I anointed a little bit with some oil and let it dry because I don't want it to mess up my phone. I let it dry completely, with the oil, but I could smell it. I'm like, okay, it's anointed with the oil. So it brings it has more power that way, right? Not that I don't believe that it does the work, but if you anoint it a little bit with like pheromone oil or some kind of prosperity oil or something, or whatever your goal is, then, it's going to work. And so I had to get rid of the cat. And I bought just a symbol, Asian symbol of prosperity and what traders use. Even traders buy those. And they put them like near their computer or in their wallet, and stuff like that. And they say a lot of comments there that it does work. And I do feel it's kind of working. I do feel a little bit more energetic with this sticker than with the cat. And I don't know. I'm hoping that it works out better than the cat does. And I did like the cat, but like I said, it was just getting me too sleepy, too lazy, like a cat. But very communicative as well, though, like very smart, like a cat, and strategic, like a cat. But the sleepiness, I can't do the sleepiness. So I had to get rid. I said, sorry, cat, I'll put you over here by my computer. I have it over here by my computer to balance me out. But it did help with the arguments, I do have to say. I have not got into an argument on the phone or nothing like that. So that's good. But now I only have, the prosperity sticker now. So, and it's good for like business or your trading or whatever it is. I believe in it. I do believe that it does work because it's frequency. But anyway, enough of that. Okay. Let's jump in here in the astro weather here. With the moon in Aries, let me refresh it here. So a couple of things here because I like to story tell. It's not just the astrology. I do have to say I went to downtown Los Angeles when the moon was in Pisces, okay? And also during that conjunction with Mars and Uranus in Gemini at 3 degrees of communication. And I wasn't sure about going to LA because I had a bad experience the last time I went there, and it's been a while. And I said, I am not going back to LA. It was really horrible. It was really bad. Um, just a lot of crazy people. A lot of crazy people, a lot of people on drugs. Dark, dark, dark. That was in downtown LA. And so I kind of had a bad experience, and I shared it before, but I don't want to share it again because it was just something that it just seemed out of a movie. And nothing happened to me or nothing like that, of course. And I was protected by strangers, believe it or not. I don't know. I always feel protected every time I go to downtown LA. I really do. And, over in downtown LA, I have Jupiter, but I also have Mars, okay, that is also crossing downtown LA. So not only will it's kind of like getting into a situation is very Mars, where I have to defend myself or fight. And then all of a sudden, and because of that, I become famous, But I am not trying to get famous, okay? That's not why I go to LA. I go to LA because sometimes I just want to travel, And I do feel my ancestors in downtown LA, and I like to get rooted, and you know, humble myself and go to situations. Not that I'm not humbled enough where I live in my area, but you know, going to LA and just running into people or just different people. I don't like to do it too much, because there are a lot of weirdos. And so the last time I went there, it was really bad because there were crazy, crazy guys, and I tend to attract because of my human design. I tend to attract a lot of not martyrs. Well, I guess that you would say martyrs, but um, kind of just people that are lost, that are probably on drugs or have been abused or like people that you need to fix, And it's interesting because I get that also with pets, okay, with animals. Like I'm always like nursing them. My cockatoo bird that passed away, he had issues. Oh my gosh, he had psychological issues, okay? He was very, very mean to his girlfriend as well. And she ran away and left him, and he became the king of the jungle. And he did not like leaving his cage, okay? He would get so mad if you would take him out of the cage. He was not the type of bird that you could put him on your shoulder or on your hands or something, or on top of your head or something. Um, no. Mm-mm. When he escaped his cage, when he was alive, he went hysterically, and I was trying to catch him so I could put him back in the cage, and he flew all over the house and he was screaming like a girl. I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?" And he wouldn't let me touch him. So I feel he probably was an abused bird until I finally caught him, with the towel, and I put him back in the cage. And I've had him already for a while and he still did not trust me. So I used to pray over him, because I'm like, I don't know where this bird came from. Well, they gave it to us, they gave it to my dad, you know. And or I don't know if my dad bought it from one of his friends or something. I don't know, but it was a couple. It was a female and a male, and the female ran away because she's like, "Oh, I cannot take him." Like, I am Lee. I don't care if I die in the wilderness. I do not want to live with him. And she flew, and he couldn't get her back. She didn't return. And normally they return. Okay, cockatoos will return back to their partners, but she was like, no way. There's no way I'm going back to him. And so I don't know what happened to her. She got lost in the woods, in the wilderness, in the trees, or let's see how she survived. But, after that, he stood alone in the cage and a little bit spoiled, but I never spent time. It was just he was singing and everything. I really dearly miss him, but I had to nurse him. I had to pray for him and make him whole and so forth. And the same thing with my turtle. Now I have a turtle. I don't know. This turtle he's a biter. So he's starting to bite. But thank God that he behaved because today I took him out at the port. This is the second time that I take him there. And it was really hot. So I think he couldn't stand the heat. It was really hot. So I think I'm like, okay. I just wanted to get enough sun on his shell because that's vitamin for him. And he did, but I think the sun was going to his eyes and they were getting kind of watery. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I wet him with water. And I think maybe he was craving the water. He wanted to go inside his aquarium. So I said, okay, let's cut it short and let's go back home. But I just took him for a little ride. He was grabbing attention a lot. They were filming him and everything. So It was, usually that's what happens, and people are like, oh my God, a turtle. They get so, I don't know what it is about turtles, like if it's something rare, because they always see dogs and cats and stuff, but they never see like, I think turtles like an exotic animal, and it's a turtle just walking, spreading his fortune because they're known for fortunate animals. Um, but yeah, people get really excited for the turtle all the time. And so that's really interesting. I don't know, I guess because I have a turtle, for me, it's not a big deal. But to other people, it's like, oh my gosh, a turtle. Like it's a big deal for other people or something. But they're cool, they're just, you know, they're animals that, he behaved, like I said, he was not biting anybody. He didn't even bite me. So I said, something is wrong with this turtle because in the house, he tries to bite me. As soon as I get him out of the aquarium and he walks around the house, he chases me all over the house and he wants to bite my feet. But when we're outside, there's no biting. Like he just doesn't bite me. I'm like, what happened? How come you don't want to bite me out here? It's only inside the house. So it's so weird. He has a weird personality. Maybe he's just mad that I don't want to take him out of the aquarium. And it's like, well, mom doesn't want you to be walking all over the house. And so, because, he likes to bite my mom too. And my mom is like, no, put him back in his aquarium. There's rules in the house that you can't be all over the house and stuff. I leave him out for a little bit and then I put him back in the aquarium, like after half an hour or something. So, that's my pet life, what happens with having a pet turtle. But I love my pet turtle. And I had a weird situation today about, when he was walking down there and out in the port and everything. And of course, I was right next to him because, I got to be watching him and everything. Um, there was an old man that was telling me that I should, take him out to the water and just release him out in the ocean. Because it's he said something like it's not fair that they should live in apartments or in homes, that it's not a place for them to live in. So like this man was like 90 years old man, but you could tell that, I don't know, he looked like an elite. He was not dressed like summer. He was dressed with, I don't know, like you could tell he had money. And he didn't look Italian to me. He looked like German or something. And just this American German man or something. He was really old. Like he could barely walk. But he was very observant. But you could tell he was not thinking right with his head. And because it's illegal, you cannot release any turtles into the ocean. And I would never do that. That's my turtle. I rescued it for a reason. But it was interesting what he said of that it's kind of like he's saying I have a captive, and you know and it's not the right thing for me to have a turtle. I'm like, why not? I didn't want to ask him because I just did not want to deal with it. Especially with the Mars and Uranus conjunction, you can easily get into arguments, especially me. Okay. And I mean, I wanted to ask him why. What is the problem? But I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to argue with him, because I think when I say questions, it kind of sounds like that. Like if I'm trying to argue with someone, I'm just trying to understand why he thinks that I should release him out in the ocean when it's illegal. You know, you probably could do that in Hawaii. You probably could do that in Cancun or somewhere in Mexico, right? There's a lot of turtles, but you don't see no turtles over here. And we are not allowed to release them out in the ocean. They'll die. They'll sink. Even though they could swim, but somebody's going to find a turtle. It's going to die. You can't put a turtle in a beach, or it's just going to be floating around. And so, what is that noise? Why are my neighbors doing that? What are they doing at this hour? It's 11:35 p.m. Okay. Anyway, so that's my story there as far as LA traveling. I went to LA, and it was surprisingly, I had a really great time. I took a risk during Mars and Uranus conjunction where it was predicted there was going to be an earthquake. And it was predicted it was going to be an earthquake, and we didn't have one. Okay. And I did a video before that, uh, before it was predicted. And, I just wanted to send out a message of, having to be positive, and we can shift that energy and transmute it, right? That's what Steve Jobs, had taught in his book. You transmute that energy, and it doesn't have to happen. And I just did an experiment. I said, well, let me put out a video and just, tell the people that are listening to me of having to be positive, because that's how we shift. The collective shifts the energy when we're all positive. And for some reason it worked. Because we didn't have one. And it doesn't mean that we can have we can have one, but I think right now it's less likely that we will have one. But you know the energies shift all the time, so that energy can still, as a matter of fact, let me look. Um yeah, we're still having a Mars Uranus conjunction. It's just in a different degree. So we have right now Uranus is at 4 degrees, which pretty much is earthquake weather. Okay, for real structure, real estate. Um, and Mars over here is at 5 degrees. Okay, 5 degrees is of Leo, and it has to do with children. It has to do with fame. It has to do with entertainment, Hollywood, all of that. Okay, so maybe there could be an earthquake, not an actual earthquake, but some sort of earthquake, something unexpected. When it comes to children, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to entertainment, maybe some children becoming famous. What we've seen when London, England won, when they won in against Portugal, right? Yeah, it was no. Is it? No, they played no, England played Mexico. That's where it was. I'm trying to get my games there. There's so many of them. And so when they played Mexico in Mexico City, in England, even in the school, the children that were in school, it was really huge in London, in England, and they had this video of a lot of kids being interviewed in their class. I think they were like 5, 6 years old, and with their English accent. It was so cute, and they were so excited, that London won, that England won. And so it's something like that where kids, are getting interviewed in their classroom, and they're getting famous and so forth. And it's so interesting because where Mars is, let me just make sure that it's aligned there. Yeah, it is. It's in the third house of communication. Okay. Uranus and Gemini, anything that pertains to communication, and where the motto is I think. Okay. It could be newspapers, it could be the radio station, it could be podcasting, it could be just any type of information. Okay. The TV, the radio, newspaper, periodicals, magazines, all of that, that has to do with communication. And that's where Uranus is something shocking, something unexpected, something like, oh, wow, some shocking news, right? We're getting a lot of shocking news right now with the FIFA, okay? Of teams that we didn't think were going to lose are losing, or just, you know, letting go, or just not worth fighting for, or they just don't want to fight over it, or anything like that. And so that's where Uranus is, and something to do with communication. Okay. Also, Mars in Gemini has to do with communication too. So some of the communication might be aggressive. Okay. I know I said some things, but I did apologize. I really do feel bad, but I was under the influence of beer. So, and I'm not blaming it on beer, but you know what I mean? But sometimes, I think, we get so emotional, so passionate over the games that are going on, and we say things, but I did apologize, That was rude. I shouldn't have. I went too aggressive. And that's not good for my health anyway, because it's not good for my health because, I'm trying to lower my blood pressure, and is not good if it's high because that can create why are they making so much noise? Um that's creating a heart attack. Okay? That's creating a heart attack. So we want to avoid that with Jupiter and Leo, okay? Especially for Pisces, okay? It's in our sixth house of health. So, we have to. I mean, I'm not saying you can't drink a beer. You could drink a beer, maybe a glass of wine, right? But just don't overdo it. Especially if you're watching a game and it's just you're so passionate about it, you know, and you say things, that you regret later, and you know relationships end, situations end, events end, and you're not so welcomed anymore, right? For or people see you in a different light now, right? And the only thing I can say is just control your alcohol content, but right now, especially because it is hot, these summer days, you go from one cold beer and then you want to get another cold beer. Well, maybe you could get a cold lemonade, doesn't have to be a beer. But, right now with that Uranus and Mars coming together, especially when it comes to entertainment, 5 degrees has to do with entertainment, and 4 degrees has to do with either real estate. Um, it has to do with also law and order and so forth. It has to do with families as well. Something unexpected about families that you're finding out. Maybe some ancestry there, some communication that is being talked about, and you're putting action in that, okay? With some sort of communication that is probably being found out that you are royalty, okay? And I don't say this just because I did find this in my lineage that and I think that's happening because of Jupiter Leo is in my fourth house, okay? So Jupiter exposes and it reveals, right? And for me personally, it's in the fourth house of my ancestry, my roots, my lineage. And when it's in the sign of Leo, that has to do with like royalty, it has to do with fame, it has to do with leadership, military. There's some secrets that are coming out that are getting revealed with Jupiter and Leo in my fourth house of ancestry, right? So that could be an example of something with this Uranus Mars right now that is coming together, where Mars is at 5 degrees a Leo, of royalty, of royal children. Maybe it's being found out that you're a royal child, or that you come from a royal lineage, and it's aggressively being put out there. And something shocking with Uranus, like, oh my gosh, you know, and things like that. So you could hear from other people or information you're finding out through maybe your lineage, your roots, all of that. I was gonna say money tree. I don't know why I was saying money tree. So maybe I meant to say from your lineage tree, or ancestry, or I do it through astrology and astrocartography because you can find out, you know, many things through there as well. Um, so it's so interesting too, okay, because Uranus is conjuncting this asteroid of beer, okay? So beer at 1 degree of Aries, okay, so there's something about the frequency of beer that is making people angry, okay? Because it's at 1 degree of Aries, okay? That's where the beer asteroid is. So, we're all having fun, we're all drinking and everything, but then all of a sudden, you could get a little heated and angry or super overly passionate, right? And it's coming together with Uranus of the unexpected, okay? So just want to control yourself there, because it could also be because 4 degrees rules law and order. You can get pulled over by police, okay? In your community, or maybe outside your home or something, somewhere around there. And it's being talked about, or maybe you come out in the newspaper or on the news, you know. It could be an example there. Also, watch out for gunfire. Okay, so 1 degree in Aries. It can be gunfire there with the asteroid of beer. Okay, if you're irresponsible, and we have heard. Well, I seen in X there was a video that was circulating about on when the Mexico and London game ended. I think it was like the next day, or I think it was the same night. Yeah, it was the same night, and I think it was around midnight or somewhere around there. And these dummies in East Los Angeles, I don't go there, but that's why you have to be very careful with these energies right now, where there's crowds and there's people and so forth. And you know, if Mexico lost, you know there was going to be some rioting, you know there was going to be probably some shooting or something like that, especially in these bad areas like East Los Angeles, right? And they said that there was this guy that was just crossing the street, or he was somewhere around a liquor store or something, and he just got shot. Like, boom, that's it. And they were just acting very wild and very irresponsible. And some people say that Gavin Newsom sent them there. You know, it had something to do with politics. So they're not doing anything about it, you know, and they're just trying to create drama and hysteria and everything. But somebody did pass away. So, or I don't know if he died or not, but somebody screamed like, "Oh my God, they shot someone," you know. And so I don't really like looking at those, you know, type of articles or videos or anything, you know. But, and it doesn't mean that it's fake. It is real. I mean, you're seeing a dead body there in the street, you know, in a video, right? And now everybody's capturing those kind of videos. But, you know, I try not to share it too much because it's not good for my health. It's not good for me to, but it is good to have awareness. This is why I share the astrology. So we can confirm with the articles and the videos of what really is happening. Well, how astrology is so real. Okay, it's very much aligned with what's happening. But also, if that is happening, imagine what can happen with your money. Imagine what can happen with your success. Imagine what can happen for you to get more clients, for you, the timing of wealth, the timing of your success, the timing of your elevation, the timing of you know, your entertainment, or um, your creativity, you know, or to get more clients, right? So it's not just to look at the bad things that are going on, which I'm not really that type of astrologer. You know, I'm a Jupiter astrologer. So, especially, you know, my sun in Pisces, you know, is ruled by Jupiter. And then, um, you know, I am a rising Taurus and is ruled by Venus. So I'm more positive, more about love and money and how to make money, and how to be more optimistic and so forth, you know. Plus Jupiter is in my career house as well. So my career that has to do with speaking and so forth, very Jupiterian. So I'm very positive, and I try to, you know, because you know, when I am positive, I vibrate that into the collective, you know. And the people that can listen to the podcast, they will understand, and they will be able to pick up on my energy of positivity, and they can go out and do positive things in the world. That's why if I don't feel good, I'm not going to podcast. I'm not the type of podcaster who's like, well, I don't care if I feel good or not, I'm just going to podcast. I'm not that type, okay? And it has nothing to do with perfectionism. It's just I know I want to put good energy out there. You know, if I feel sad or mad or something, you know, I don't want to put it out there. You know, I'd rather just be like, nope, today I'm going to take a break, and tomorrow when I'm more positive, then I will talk, right? Oh my God, I'm so thirsty. Um, so that is what's happening. So we are still having a Mars Uranus, but now it has to do with maybe this, you know, allegedly earthquake, you know, And based on history, okay, and I say allegedly because it has not happened, and it should have happened at the 3 degree. It didn't. Um, but maybe it's these little earthquakes that are going on when it comes to situations. Doesn't actually have to manifest as an earthquake, a shattering earthquake where the earth is breaking in half. Which has been predicted for many years that it's going to happen. And San Andreas Fault is really weak in San Francisco. Um, but maybe it's just situations here. This Mars Uranus here with the 4 degrees of structure and then 5 degree of Hollywood or kids or fame. It could be a little earthquake there when it comes to celebrities. Um, what's going on with Justin Bieber? He recently announced that he has HIV, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I do believe it to be true because I don't think he's the only one. I feel that there's a lot of celebrities that have it and they hide it through medicine and they look normal, but they are medicated for life. They're gonna have to take medication for life. But he just recently announced. He said he got it from Hunter Biden, which is Joe Biden's son, which is a Scorpio. I think he's a Scorpio, and Justin Bieber has a lot of Scorpio. He's a quadruple Scorpio. So he has a lot of Scorpio. And so, what happens in the industry and so forth. But, you know, politics and all of that. It's just a very unfortunate thing. But, when you get into Hollywood, you know what you're getting into. Or maybe not because, he was sold to Diddy. And then from there, he signed his contract, his life away, and can't get out of Hollywood ever. So he's stuck in Hollywood. He's stuck in that lifestyle. He can never be normal like before. But it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate thing, and my prayers to him. If hopefully he gets well. And I mean, look at what is it, Mike Johnson? He's been having AIDS. He's had AIDS for a long time, and he uses medication, and I'm pretty sure he's taking medication for a long time. And there's been a lot of improvement when it comes to HIV, when it comes to the medication. Before they probably had to take a whole cocktail of pills, and now maybe they only have to take one or two. That's from what I heard, that they don't have to take pills like that. And the only reason I know is because you go to clinics and you see like posters on there, only one pill, and that they help people there that they want to take their HIV test or something like that at clinics, but they say we got the latest pill, just only one pill, so I'm like, so that's what celebrities are taking. But before it was like a whole cocktail, like I think like 10 or 11 pills. I used to hear it was a lot because I've seen like shows of Lifetime or something, and they do like these real shows where of or a simulation of shows of people, real life stories. And they had this one lady that was taking a whole cocktail because she was infected with HIV, and they do it into the whole drama series and everything, and she's like taking like almost 20 pills or something. I don't know how many. It was a lot. It was a whole cocktail. So times have changed. Improvement has changed. So there's unexpected, shocking news that we're hearing because it's in the third house of communication. Okay. Mars has also to do with sex. Okay. It's not just taking action and movement, which is also drive and also movement, but it also rules sex. Okay. At the 5 degree, that has to do with Hollywood. Something unexpected that we're finding out about Hollywood, maybe something to do with children, because 5 degrees of Leo, it rules children as well. So it could be something maybe during intoxication because that beer is conjuncting Uranus as well, or drugs or something like that, some communication there. Okay. So let me get off that beer topic there. But let's jump in over here with the moon in Aries right now. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me refresh it because I've been on here. I like it to for it to be accurate. So um, I gotta refresh the wheel here. Okay, so the moon here in Aries, 8 degrees of wealth, 8 degrees of loss, wins or losses. It has to do with transformation. Okay, that's the 8 degree of Scorpio. And that's how we're feeling right now. Maybe right now we were feeling like we want to transform. Uh, we want to change ourselves because it's in the first house of the self of I am. So maybe right now you might want to be a little bit more quiet, because Scorpio is about being silent, being quiet, um, or just meditating, or focus on money and on how you can make more money. And so it's in the first house, or maybe how you can feel more like money, you know, with how you dress, with who you are, with how you think. Okay. The first house has to do with how you appear to others, the way you package yourself. Okay. Think of yourself as a personal brand, right? Well, we are personal brands, right? Everybody has like their own name. Like here is, Star Zenith, the Astro Weather. That's all personal branding. And so everybody has their own name or title or business cards, anything like that, a website, and it's how we package ourselves. Um, Not who we are on the inside, but how we package ourselves on the outside. Okay. Also, it has to do with the unconscious. Okay. Um, and sometimes having the difficulty to seeing ourselves as others see us. Okay. That's the first house. Okay. And so it represents our early childhood years. Okay. And so this is why we always have to be, changing our identity as we grow, as we evolved. We're no longer who we were in our childhood days. And so we're always changing either our hair, how we dress, how we speak, or our character, as we evolve, as we grow. So that is where the moon is, and it's coming together with Neptune. Okay. Neptune has to do also with entertainment, with music, with film. It has to do with the beach, with the ocean, with the beaches, and it's at 4 degrees. Okay. 4 degrees here of structure, 4 degrees of real estate. Um, it could be maybe you want to live near the water. Um, it could be maybe where you live around the water, there's a lot of protection with police. Um, or there's a lot of families, it's very family oriented, near the ocean. Okay. And it's in the sign of Aries, right? There's a lot of leadership, police protection, with the moon coming together in the sign of Aries. That has to do with wealth. Okay. It could be a very wealthy area, maybe where you want to live, or maybe where you live might be pretty wealthy, if it's near where you live, right? Doesn't exactly You don't exactly have to live in that area, but you're in the vicinity. Okay. It is also coming together with Saturn in Aries. Right now Saturn's at 14 degrees, so it's the degree of wealth, is the degree of banks. It is a degree of Taurus. Okay, when you think about Taurus, Taurus has to do with wealth, with food, with restaurants, with businesses. It has to do with Wall Street, trading, all of that. So it's really heavy duty there when it comes to money. Okay, the banking world, and it's in Saturn. So these are elites. Okay, this is like Swiss banks. That you need a password and you need all of that, right? And that's coming together. It's in the sign of Aries, and that's coming together with the moon and Neptune. There could be a little bit of illusion to that. Um, how you feel about money. There could be some sort of control as well when it comes to certain banks here. at 14 degrees of the banking world. Um, and let me look at this. Okay. Uh, um, well, let me drink some water here because I certainly am very, very thirsty. And so we have the moon and Saturn, and then we have this asteroid here that's called Rest in Peace, okay? And it's in the sign of Aries. Now, I'm not saying, it is not to put fear out there. I'm not saying that Aries are going to die or anything like that, okay? When this asteroid of Aries in Rest in Peace, it could be something comes to an end, okay? Something comes to it. It's at 17 degrees of royalty, 17 degrees of fame, and leadership. It's the degree of Leo, okay? And that's where Rest in Peace is in the sign of Aries. So it has that Aries Leo vibe on there. And it's coming together with Saturn and the moon in Aries, okay? So there could be something that ends when it comes, it could be something to do with your money. It could be something to do with banks, okay? Closure of banks or accounts or anything like that, okay? Um, and that's what I see there, okay? Um, Especially in the first house, maybe what you were perceived as having a lot of money, and then all of a sudden they have to close one of your accounts, or something happens. There's some sort of control there with Saturn when it pertains to maybe closing one of the accounts or maybe closing a bank or something like that, okay? And then that's coming together with strategy of Palace. Palace is about strategy. What is your next strategy? What is your next move? What else are you going to do? In case they do shut down maybe one of these accounts here, or, if you do have a lot of money, we're talking about a lot of money here with Saturn. So Palace is about strategy here in the sign of Aries. It's at a degree that it's not too good, not too favorable. It's 18 degrees. It is a degree of Virgo. It does rule the police, but it could be evil. And I've seen this degree in many charts. And every time I see it, like there's something evilish that happens, or that has happened, or that person kind of it is perceived as being evilish, where they do things that are dark, you know. And I've seen this with the 18 and the 22 degree. Um, so the strategy here is not too trusted. It's kind of if somebody asks you, hey, you want to, do a joint finance, and we could form partnerships and we can make way more money and so forth, but you just don't trust that person, and you don't automatically say yes because you don't trust that person at all. But they're trying to be friendly, and they're going to say they promise you the moon and the stars, and the 18 degrees say not to trust it. Do your research. This is why it's a Virgo degree, because it's saying do your research, right? Research the company, research what are the plans, what are the deals, what are the intentions of the person, and so forth, before you sign that contract. And also because it's in Aries, they might want to do a contract like really fast, just sign on the dotted line just now, and you're just stuck in a rock in a hard place and not know what to do. But at the 18 degree, I would wait till at least goes in the 19 degree. Try to avoid anything under 18 degree because it could be a bad contract. Especially because, it's right there with Saturn and the moon. Yeah, I'm hearing like you have to be aligned. Yeah, definitely. You got to be aligned. Everything's about alignment. If it's misaligned, it's just not going to work. Especially because that asteroid of Rest in Peace is right crunched in between strategy and Saturn. Okay, that's where that rest in peace in Aries is. Um, and I'm getting a little bit scratchy in my throat. So anyway, let's not talk about that anymore. That's just an example of what can happen, okay? Um, so let's not talk about politics there. Um, I'm not going to talk about certain things here, but let's see. I usually talk about the moon because that's what's happening every 48 hours. It just jumped into Aries. So let's see what we got. Okay, so the moon right now is making an opportunity with Mars. Um, so we might, want to, jump into opportunities when it comes to Mars and Gemini that rules ideas. That is coming together with Uranus, something unexpected and something fast. Okay. Um, so I did talk about the moon conjunct Saturn, moon conjunct Neptune. um, the moon is squaring Pholus. Okay, so when the moon is in Aries, it's going to oppose Libra, it's going to square Capricorn, and is going to square Cancer. Okay, so we're talking about families, we're talking about businesses and elites, um, and um, and also the law and attorneys and courts. So it's pretty heavy when the moon's in Aries. It's pretty heavy because these are all cardinal signs, the modality of cardinals, and it has to do with leadership. Okay, these are leaders that stand up and show up and they all fight each other, right? Especially with the whole FIFA, that's what they're doing. They're proving themselves which is the best team, you know? And some people want to see more sweat. Some people want to see them work harder. And, you know, it is what it is. That's what people want. So, what's going on with the moon in square Pholus, that has to do with business. Pholus is in Capricorn and the moon in Aries. So they challenge each other. It's challenging businesses. Let me look at Pholus there. Um, Yeah. Okay, let's see. Full is in Capricorn in the 10th house of public participation. So the motto there is I relate with the world. So this is the 10th house is on the MC. Okay, is the highest top of the chart when it comes to your status, your recognition, your applause, trophies, awards, rewards, where people are, where you're being recognized, right? It's the house of champions. It's the house of the elites, okay? And it has to do with fame and status and recognition, ambition, promotions, the carrying out of responsibility, okay? So it is a heavy house. It has a lot of influence as well with the world, okay? And um, having to influence events and circles and relationships and politics and business, power structures, corporations, governments, churches, and organizations. Okay. And that is where Pholus is in Capricorn. So we're talking about churches, we're talking about businesses. And when it comes to Pholus, this asteroid is about the domino effect. It's whatever happens to one domino, it's going to happen to everyone, right? That is part of that society or corporation. And so if there's one bad apple, then everybody's going to get found out, right? And so it's making a challenge. I don't know why I said breaking. So maybe something's breaking apart or something. So Pholus is challenged with the moon in Aries that has to do also with leadership. Okay. But it's a different type of leader. Here with Aries, it's a Aries Scorpio. So it's very focused on money and wealth and wants to take action. Okay. And who they are as it comes together with Saturn. Okay. Saturn is the big daddy there. Saturn is the one that controls. Okay. Um, and so it's bringing a challenge with what has been built in Capricorn in Pholus, what they have already built, right? What they already have elevated and have results for. And so now it's bringing a challenge. And it's probably bringing a challenge because the moon conjunct Saturn here in Aries wants to bring change. It wants to bring something different, and maybe Capricorn is more traditional, okay? Vintage, traditional. It rules old men, um, and just like the old man that I ran into today, while I was walking with my turtle. It has a way of thinking, very traditional, very kind of stuck energy and not too innovative, and doesn't understand why younger people do certain things. And that's how I personally took it, that he's seen me as somebody that would be like more rebellious. Because I was ignoring him. I was not really paying a lot of attention. I was just listening to what he had to say, but doesn't mean that I'm going to do what he says. I just felt that his thinking was not all there. And but it was very rare our conversation that we had. I respected the man because he was older, and but you know he had it looks like he was observing me from far, until he got close to me, and just looking at the turtle, and wanted me to release the turtle. I'm like, nope, this turtle ain't going nowhere. But it's interesting, so it could have been something like that. I could have been like the moon in Aries of somebody that, we're traveling, I, you know, the Saturn in Aries, the turtle is pretty much vintage as well, but it is a rebel as well. And I think the old man was more like the Pholus, somebody that, you know, um, is respected and so forth. Um, and so it was bringing some sort of challenge, regarding a conversation we were having. So anyway, it was not a big deal, but I at later I was like, why did he feel to say that? Like it could have been frequency and so forth, but let me see if I see one more because before I log off here because it's already going to be an hour. Um, hmm, let's see. Well, I'm noticing that the moon is doing a lot of challenges with a lot of fortune, a lot to do with money. Uh, it's doing challenges with a lot of fortune. It's doing a challenge with Moni, this asteroid of money, big money. Um, it is bringing a challenge to the asteroid of Italia, which has to do with Italy. Um, it's opposing Pandora's box. It's something that needs to be found out. Um, it seems very secretive. It's as if the moon was in Scorpio. um, but yeah, so I did mention Pholus is scoring Pholus, so there could be some challenges with businesses right now with money. Okay. So that's the thing. When the moon's in Aries, when it's in Libra, when it's in Cancer, or when it's in Capricorn, drama. Okay, there's gonna be a lot will have to do with families and money and business and politics and leadership and how you lead and so forth. And so those are the type of problems that I could see that are happening. We're gonna have the Aries moon today and tomorrow for 48 hours. And so for right now, the best thing you can do, let me see here, this one here. The best thing that you can do, since the moon is in Aries, and Mars is in Gemini, okay, Mars will be very influential in the second house of money now. So it has to do with substance, it has to do with money, it has to do with I have, okay? It has to do with investments and your earning power and your money and any movable possessions such as vehicles. So it has to do with your communication as well, the second house. So that's where Mars is. Okay, so pay attention to that as well. That's going to be very important. And now it moved out of the 5 degree. Now that I've been doing all this talking, now it's at 6 degrees. So now the importance is your health. Okay, the importance is your health and the work that you do, your environment, and also open enemies. Okay, so just watch out for that. Mars in Gemini, and just pay attention to your health. Like I said, I don't know why my throat was like, I'm drinking water, but my throat was getting scratchy. Where I'm actually gonna log off now, so that way I can um, take one of those cough drops and stuff. Just to soothe the throat, because when you talk a lot, that can happen. So, anyway, I'm going to log off from here from the Astro Weather. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Um, if you guys did enjoy the episode, do like, do share, do subscribe, do tell your friends and family, as we're growing the channel here. And this is the 51 episode. Okay. I've, I'm trying to consistently do these. Um, Hopefully I can do them for every day. I was doing a 21-day challenge, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't, things, got in the way and I was not able to do it. And I'm trying to still, do it again, restart it again for 21 days just to get the ball rolling and so forth. And I am, July, I'm going to go harder. Well, not harder, but I'm just gonna make it a priority. There we go. Make it a priority and do it earlier than usual, and and yeah, and that's where we go. But I appreciate everybody that is listening to the podcast, because this could give you a picture of what to expect and what to around your environments or your surroundings and frequencies, right? So you can strategize. It's not going to completely help you to strategize to open a business, but it can help you to make some decisions that maybe you were not making some good decisions, or you were about to make a decision, you dodged it. Um, but if you do want if you do want a reading, you can go to my website at www.starzenith33.com, and you can book a reading there to personally get one privately that is tailored to you, not to the collective, because that makes a whole lot of difference, especially when we have new moons and full moons, and you want to know where in your chart you have that, right? Of course, you can always go to another site and just download it yourself and try to, uh, understand it. But, it's best when somebody else can read it for you and can explain to you what's going on with your chart. And because that's going to take a while for you to kind of understand it. You can know the basics, but to go more into like the degree and the angles and, um, and any intuition that you need to know about, because I'm also very psychic, so I get a lot of downloads. I'm a triple Pisces, so Pisces as being one of the most spiritual people that would be considered like a high priestess. And so I'm a stellium in Pisces, Sun, Venus, and Mercury. And yeah, so especially my my Mercury is at 17 degrees of Leo. So it's not so wishy-washy or nothing like that. It rules leadership and royals. And it rules celebrities as well. So anyway, just wanted to do this podcast, and just I hope you guys continue listening to it. I hope you guys continue supporting it. And I will talk to you on the next one. Have a great night.